A critical deadline is looming in Canada-U.S. trade negotiations, and this week, Prime Minister Mark Carney met with premiers in Ontario to provide an urgent update. The talks come after U.S. President Donald Trump signaled a potential 35% tariff on products that aren't eligible for free trade under the USMCA agreement, the deal between Canada, the U.S. and Mexico. With the deadline for a new trade deal pushed to August 1st, many businesses are watching closely. Joining us this morning is Chuck Davidson, President and CEO of the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce. Thank you for being here, Chuck.
Good morning, Ainsley.
Well, Manitobans want to know, what do these talks mean for our province?
Well, I think in the long term, and I think there's no question about this, is that we've had a long-standing trade relationship with the U.S. It's been decades it's been in place. And I think what we're looking for is how do we gain some of that certainty that we had in the past back? And I think these conversations that are going on, there is a level of urgency to them. Obviously, there's that August 1st deadline. But at the same time, I think it's more important that we get a good deal for not only Manitobans, but for Canadian businesses. And that's really the signal that I think came out yesterday from the Prime Minister and the Premiers. I think they're very much aligned that let's get a good deal on this, but there are impacts of this. When we're looking at some of the numbers in terms of how has Manitoba been impacted as a result of this, Manitoba Bureau of Statistics put out some numbers recently in May that looked at, what was the decrease of Manitoba exports year over year, and the decrease for Manitoba was about 9%. And so that's a significant dollar figure when you're looking in terms of, we're talking billions of dollars that are impacted there. And specifically, you saw a decrease of 15% between Manitoba and the United States. The one good thing, though, is that we are picking up in terms of exports to other countries, which is exactly what we've talked about as well, is how do we lessen our reliance on the U.S., how do we do more trade within our own country, and how do we look at some of those new export partners that we can do business with. So while we're focused on that deadline, the relationship with the U.S. is not going to go away. How can we also look at other opportunities for Manitoba businesses?
Yeah, well, it's apparent this is already happening. Of that 9%, which industry has been hit hardest in Manitoba?
Yeah, so the industries that are going to be most impacted are obviously going to be manufacturing. Those are the key ones in terms of movement of goods across the border. You're also looking at pharmaceutical, you're looking at agricultural products. So there's a number of industries that, from a Manitoba perspective, when you talk about total trade that Manitoba businesses do, 73% of it has been done with the U.S. in the past. So every industry is going to be impacted to some level. The fact that a number of businesses are CUSMA or USMCA compliant, they're still able to do business. So it's really impacting automotive, it's really impacting steel and aluminum producers. Those are the key industries that we're really looking forward to. What's that deal going to look like for not only Manitoba, but Canada and the U.S. as part of these conversations?
If a consensus, even on a federal level, is, hey, we want a good deal, if we're thinking local, what does that mean? What would hopefully that look like for local?
Yeah, well, I think it's going to mean for local is that businesses are going to find it easier to do business across the states. And I think what the real challenge that a lot of companies have had over the course of the past number of months is that understanding how to do trade with the U.S. because things are changing so rapidly on an ongoing basis. But I think the key message that we're continuing to send is that while we're going to continue to focus on that relationship, it's also important, and this is the key one as well, is that you're seeing a number of the provinces signing MOUs to do better business with each other. And that's something we've long been calling for. How do we make sure that we're less reliant on the United States because they become not a very reliable trading partner as they had been in the past. So making sure that we're taking advantage of all of the opportunities that are out there are going to be better in the long run.
Are Manitobans perhaps fearful to hire because of this as well?
I think it's a slowdown, and I think that's something that we've seen over the course of the past 6 months. Specifically, is businesses, when there's that level of uncertainty in terms of where things are going to be going, you typically tend to not make investments. You don't hire people, and you're waiting to kind of see what the long-term game is going to be. I think the sense that we're getting, though, is that both the federal government as well as the provincial governments are really stepping up in terms of playing a role to make sure that businesses are going to be supported and are looking at other potential opportunities so that they can start making those investments that are going to be critical to the Canadian economy.
Chuck, always a pleasure. Manitoba Chambers of Commerce.